I'm going to continue talking about how legislation can affect the digital media sector by looking first at privacy and defamation, which are two things you need to consider if you are creating a digital media product. First of all, let's talk about an issue which is not necessarily directly related to any particular law, but is a legal issue and is an issue which affects all of us, which is privacy. So privacy is the ability to withhold information about oneself. So our right as a citizen to have certain information which we are not deciding to share with the world because we want that privacy, we want that sort of secrecy in a way. Now, some aspects of our privacy we can control, others we can't. So if you're going into a shop or down a high street, you can't really do much about the CCTV cameras. You are sort of having to give up an aspect of privacy in that case. But others we can control, like your social media, either not having it at all or being very careful with your settings and so on. And in terms of us maybe designing a digital media product, perhaps you find that you've got this end user requirement and it might be just to keep all users' data private. In some cases, you might need to collect some data, but you might not need to share it ever. You may not really need to use it. And so you've got to be very careful. And at the very least, you do need to secure all of any personal data being collected, which we'll talk more about in a minute. I mentioned about being careful with social media settings in terms of protecting our own privacy. We can also do things like hide our identity in some ways. So for example, having maybe an unrelated username, so not having your own personal name in your username, maybe having a profile picture which is generic or isn't actually directly of you, in case you want to protect your privacy in that way. Another thing we can do when using websites is to make sure we are connecting only ever with a secure connection, especially when we are sending some personal information, like logging into your account, for instance. So when you are connecting, and it's often shown with like a little padlock next to the address, it means your data which is being sent to the website is kept secure because it's being encrypted. Encrypted means it's sort of being scrambled up, and it means if anyone intercepts the data on the way to the destination, because it's passing over loads and loads of different cables and via different devices and so on, anyone who can access that data can actually read the data. It cannot see the actual information because it's all been jumbled up. So this is about individuals, but talking more about as a production, well, if you are doing filming or photography out in public, you can respect the privacy of those involved in the filming, perhaps people who would be in the background of your shots maybe, by putting up some notice signs. And you may well have seen these if you've been out and about when there's been filming going on, just saying there's some filming in progress and to suggest avoiding the area if you do not want to be on camera. That is more about people who might be in the background or might inadvertently get in a shot. But in terms of people who are actually on camera directly, so actors, maybe someone you are interviewing, what in the industry they'd call talent, it's a very important thing to do to get talent used in your production to sign a release form beforehand, before any filming is done, which is there to keep them informed, and so they are aware that their privacy is being breached in certain ways, and also to reduce the risk of any lawsuits, because they may not realise getting interviewed on the street that actually this is for an advert which is going to get shown around the world, or this is going on national TV tonight. They want to know what exactly it's going to be used for, because otherwise if they think that they've been exploited in some way, they can then sue the company afterwards, and that would potentially cost a lot of money. And this release form is usually just a document outlining what exactly this content will be used for, who's it going to be shown to, who owns the rights to this footage, and you sign it to give permission based on this content. If you ever see it on a YouTube video or on the news or on some TV show, like a reality TV show, someone with a blurred face and even a distorted voice, that usually means they haven't signed the release form, they have declined to appear, and so they have obscured their identity to keep their privacy. A sometimes related concept is defamation. So a person or organisation is defamed when someone says something untrue about them, which causes serious damage to their reputation. And the part in blue is really important because we have freedom of speech and you're allowed to say negative things, and it's sometimes hard to verify if it's true or not. You know, I could say, oh, I hate McDonald's, and McDonald's are not going to sue me because first of all, they can't prove that's untrue because it's my opinion. And also it's not causing any damage to their reputation. If I said, oh, the last Big Mac I had wasn't cooked properly, again, it's very hard to prove and it's not going to cause serious damage to how people perceive a worldwide brand like McDonald's. But say I somehow, on a slow news day, managed to get that comment on the front page of a newspaper. I said, okay, the burgers are undercooked, and it became a scandal. Well, then it might cause serious damage and they might want to look at the Defamation Act, which is a law which covers defamation, and pressure to be prosecuted, because often defamation will be resolved via a civil court. so the police aren't getting involved, but it could also be a police matter as well in serious cases, including if the comment includes something which is offensive or threatening, because defamatory comments can also include those which are offensive or threatening, although usually it's more about the damage to your reputation. But for messages which are done online, which are offensive or threatening, they are also covered under another law, which is the Communications Act, and so you could well be prosecuted if you said something racist or homophobic or something like that on social media. You could be prosecuted under the Communications Act as well. And so the takeaway from this is that as people who are creating digital media, we must be really careful that all information about a person is not only true, but also inoffensive, right? So before publishing, say we are a magazine, before publishing an article about someone, which is maybe negative, you've got to be really careful that it is true and also isn't going to offend anyone. Otherwise you may be doing something illegal according to these two laws.